we now welcome in Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central with On3 Sports. Jack, thanks for taking some time for us, man.
Hey, thanks guys for having me on. Really appreciate it. Always happy to talk sports.
Hey, how long is the drive from South Carolina, from Columbia, South Carolina to Pittsburgh?
So my coworker and I, Mike Yuva, we're driving, and we are currently in West Virginia. We're at it's about 8 hours, so we're at the halfway point right now.
That's not a bad drive.
That's from here to Sacramento?
Yeah, that's not a bad drive at all.
Doable.
Yeah. I wonder if anyone's making the drive out from Eugene to Pittsburgh for this. But
I'm going to tell you, absolutely not. Nobody is making that drive from Pittsburgh.
There's one lunatic.
You had to start Sunday and just start driving. The bracket was revealed, and they just started
Where are we
heading
going?
to Pittsburgh, baby.
All right, Jack, for people that haven't watched South Carolina play, because this is the first meeting between Oregon and South Carolina, so I imagine a lot of Pac-12 folks haven't seen South Carolina. What is this team kind of built on?
Yeah, this is a team that likes to play at their own pace. If they can stay at a good pace early, build the lead or stay in the game, they take a lot of time off the clock, make a lot of passes, try to look for the right shot. And this is a team that doesn't score in high volume typically, but at the same time, they're able to hit their threes and make big plays in the paint. I think they're an all-around good team that finds more than one way to get points on the board.
Led by two guards, Talon Cooper and Michi Johnson, both all SEC selections this year. Having guard play is going to be huge, especially when you're going against a young freshman point guard like Jackson Shelstead in the University of Oregon. How dependent are they on the rhythm of those two guys and the success throughout the course of the game?
So, it's kind of interesting you bring that up because, honestly, lately, Michi Johnson has been struggling kind of. He's had a few games where he's been really good, but, it's nothing compared to the start he got off to this year. And then Talon Cooper's always been pretty consistent. He's not going to score 30 points or anything, but, he'll get you 10 to 15 points and hit some clutch threes and make some good plays on defense. But the way, honestly, they rely on them, but it's not like the end-all, be-all. I know guard play is so important in March Madness, but they also have Colin Murray-Boyles and B.J. Mack in the paint that, can account for a good portion of their points. I think that's kind of how they won, the Mississippi State game to end the regular season and then the Arkansas game to open the SEC tournament. So there's more ways to win for this team than their guard play. But obviously, you'd like Michi Johnson or Talon Cooper, maybe even both those guys to get going as we head into March Madness now.
When you look at this South Carolina team, stylistically, you talked about as far as working on the clock, they're also a team that doesn't hurt themselves, which in NCAA tournament play is maybe the biggest thing outside of having that guard play. When you look at this Oregon team that the key to their success has been timely shot making, but there's just not a lot of room for error. Is that something when you look at this matchup that you look at South Carolina going, they're not a team that either turns the ball over, but they don't really force turnovers either. They just like to keep things steady. Is that kind of the key to this game, or do you see something different than that?
Yeah, so I think the key to this game, and I've been talking about it with my coworker Mike Yuva, is that, Oregon's got a lot of size, and, that's something that kind of hurt South Carolina a little bit in these matchups with Auburn specifically this year. That's kind of who we're reminded of when you look at this Oregon team. Whether or not Oregon's as physical as Auburn, I think that's kind of to be determined. I think Auburn's a really good team and is a good comp for Oregon, but I think South Carolina's defense, makes such a big difference in these games, and they play very sound defensively. They're gonna, force you into some tough shots and such. But like you said, that's how they play their brand of basketball. And so I think this game definitely comes down to whether or not South Carolina can defend well and, play well in the paint. Because, you have a guy like N'Faly Dante. I hope I'm saying that name right.
Yep.
He's just insane. And that matchup with Colin Murray-Boyles, I said as soon as I watched 5 minutes of that Pac-12 championship game, I'm like, okay, that is the matchup that's going to determine who wins and who loses this game.
Yeah, shooting 85% from the field in the month of March, not bad for N'Faly Dante. It's been a good run. And, what has Lamont Paris meant to this program, though? And how surprising is it that year two, an NCAA appearance, a 6 seed, because 2017, the future looked so bright under Frank Martin, where it was a Final Four run, and it was Frank Martin just kind of being that gritty red ass on the bench. But the wheels fell off pretty quickly. How is it surprising that Lamont Paris has them where they're at right now?
I think if you asked any average Joe on the street before the season where South Carolina was going to finish at the end of the year, no one would have said tied for second in the SEC. I think you were more realistically looking at bottom of the barrel. Even in my opinion, I was thinking maybe like 10th in the SEC, maybe a little higher, but nothing beyond that. I think Lamont Paris has really blown away everyone's expectations, and he's the right guy for the job. I think there were a lot of people, unsure about him when South Carolina swung and missed on a lot of their potential hires after Frank Martin was canned, but I think he's got them going in the right direction. He's a player's coach. The guys love him from everything I've heard, and his coaching style works for this team with the way they play defense and what they can do on offense. I think it's a very balanced attack.
What's the thing that needs to spark South Carolina to make a deep tournament run?
Meechie Johnson, easily. He needs to look. South Carolina has enough talent to go around to make up for one guy not playing so well. And there's been games where Meechie Johnson's been, 1 for 10 from the field. There was even a game earlier this year where he had 0 points, and South Carolina still won no problem. So they can make up for, any deficiencies out there. However, to make a run in March, you think of big guys like Steph Curry and I'm trying to think of some other guys that have, led the way to big runs in March Madness. You need that prototypical scorer that's going to go out there and put up 20 to 25 points a game and, carry the way. It's not the end-all, be-all, but for South Carolina, I think in order to beat a team like Oregon and then maybe Creighton or Akron or whoever, Tennessee down the road, you got to be able to score with your big guns. And Meechie Johnson, you want to make a name for yourself. This is there's no better place to do it. So I think he definitely will, especially with him being from Cleveland and stuff. I hear he's got a lot of family coming in town for this game. So I think he'll step up to the plate.
Miles Stute had a hit pointer in the SEC tournament, and he had a longer term injury earlier in the season. What's his status looking like for round one?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything yet on Miles Stute. That hip pointer injury, I think, came from the Arkansas game. He got, hit pretty hard, it would seem. And, he's been dealing with injuries throughout this entire season. I hate it for him just because, he's a transfer, making a name for himself, had a starting spot, and now it's kind of, coming off the bench and such. But, if he's available to go tomorrow, I think they're pretty much good on the injury front. Thursday. I think they're going to be fine on the injury front because also Talon Cooper was dealing with an ankle issue after the Auburn game. But, if you get Stute back, look at it this way. He comes off the bench, plays pretty good defense, has that veteran experience, and, can hit a few shots. So I think while he might not be at 100%, if you can get him anywhere close to above 75 to 80%, I think you're in a good position. And it only helps South Carolina.
All right, let's get to Jermaine Couisnard, former South Carolina Gamecock. And this is crazy that it's the first time in either football or basketball that Oregon and South Carolina have met up in any capacity, let alone the NCAA tournament. But Couisnard, former South Carolina Gamecock, is there any bad blood between the two? Because it was kind of a weird reaction when, you saw the 6 seed come up and it was South Carolina. And then when Oregon popped up, all of a sudden it was like a mixed emotion for Couisnard there.
Yeah, no, people like him here in Columbia. I was actually talking with Jacoby Wright the other day, who is a guard for South Carolina. So long story short, after Frank Martin got fired, a ton of players decided to transfer, and Germany was one of them. But Jacoby Wright ended up staying along with Josh Gray, and they're the only 2 players left from the Frank Martin era at South Carolina. And talking with Jacoby, it seems like they're still brothers to this day. They still text. Jacoby was texting Jermaine after the Pac-12 championship game, and it was all good there. But they're not going to text now because not to play each other. But I think afterwards, it's all still love at the end of the day. And look, Jermaine had to do what was best for him. And I understand it. Transferring after your coach gets fired. I mean, it's a tough situation, and you wish he would have stayed, under Lamont Paris and stuff. But look at what he's doing in Oregon. He's continuing to thrive, and I know he didn't have a great Pac-12 tournament, but I think he's definitely going to be critical in what the Ducks can do moving forward here.
Hey, Jack, thanks for taking the time for us today, man. Have a safe drive and enjoy the tournament.
Yeah, man. Always appreciate it, guys. Thank you for thinking of me and having me on.
Anytime. That's Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central for On3 Sports ahead of South Carolina, Oregon NCAA tournament on Thursday.
Lamont Paris in this South Carolina team, they are defensively. That's where they're going to want to make their.
You look at all of their profiles. They force one of the least amount of turnovers in all of basketball because they just play sound. They aren't aggressive. So when we talked about profiles, and when you're talking about matchups in the NCAA tournament, there's the hyper-aggressive Sanfords who are going to 2-1-2 you to death. They're going to run lineup changes wholesale. They're just going to grind you into paste for 40 minutes. This South Carolina team, they are going to be nuanced and methodical. They are not going to take chances on offense. They are not going to take chances on defense. They are going to make you make mistakes.
I am excited for this matchup for that reason. It's not going to be the back and forth.
It's not going to be sexy.
Running gun.
It's going to be good basketball.
Sexy NCAA tournament game. It's going to be kind of put you in a phone booth, and we're going to see who comes out of it. And I think that's where Oregon wants to play. I mean, they will push tempo. They're going to get up and down the floor. But we saw when they were at their best, and what we've heard from Dana Altman time and time again, is we're rushing our offense. Yep. Everything is too fast. And if you play a team that doesn't want to push you up and down the floor, it's a lot easier to kind of run your sets, get into where you want to be. That, to me, means that we're going to have
styles make fights.
Hell of a matchup between these two teams.
If Oregon can execute and hit timely shots to where they're in it in the final 5 minutes, you should be in for a bit of a thriller.
I think we're going to hit the under.
Whatever it is, I would bet it, just because neither team, Oregon especially, not great shooting, but again, South Carolina, the reason they are where they are, this was look, they're a 6 seed, but you look at their profile, they're a really good 26-7. They were a really good team.
Yep, and the guy we talked about at the end, Jermaine Couisnard, he's going to play a massive role for Oregon in this matchup. Not because it's South Carolina, not because it's his former school. It is because of in the tournament, you need and he did. He had a bit of a rough go of it in the Pac-12 tournament. In the tournament, you need the veterans. This is a guy who is I think he's a 6-year senior.
Yeah.
These are where those guys shine.
This is where it should show out.
And that is when you have a true freshman point guard in Shellstead, when you are inexperienced at other places, that guy pays dividends come tourney time. He's going to have to be huge.